All right, you're telling me you could teach anyone how to sing.
Yeah.
You can't teach me. I can't sing.
You can do it.
I'm not even interested in singing, but...
It'll make you feel good. Watch. You ready?
Yeah.
Give it a try.
I'll give it a try.
All right, you know the song, Smile Though Your Heart Is Aching, right? Smile, right?
Smile.
All right, give it a try now. Take a breath.
We are here in Pittsfield.
Pittsfield! Wow.
Yeah. Show tunes today,
We're
everyone.
not winning any Tonys for that one.
No.
It's all right. It's not all about winning.
We've got Dr. Johnny, we've got Sefer Lula, we've got Colonel Nye, and I am here, Joe D, and we are going to talk
Not
to
Joe
Jerry Zaks.
And Marion.
Marion. Tony Award winner.
Marion.
Tries to teach me how to sing, which could never be done, but guy's full of energy.
Say never, Joe.
And you know what? What would I ever learn? This is what I said to myself. What could I possibly learn? What would be interesting about somebody who puts on plays on Broadway? And I was actually surprised. I'm pretty impressed.
That's a very cultural thing. What could possibly be interesting on Broadway? I don't know. Let's find out.
It's just not something I grew up around. I grew up in a different kind of place, and it just wasn't something that I thought was going to be interesting, and I was actually blown away. We are here on Broadway, Spartan Up podcast with 4-time Tony Award winning director, Jerry Zaks. And you did that all before you were 40 years old?
You know, it's like doing the math is like the first test that I failed just now. No, I was, I think so. Yeah, I think it was pretty much around the time I was 40. I didn't start directing until I was about 30 because I'd acted for 10 years.
You were in Greece. You were in the first Greece.
Original production of Greece.
And what year was that?
73, 74.
1973, you were in Greece, and you played John Travolta?
No. Now, John Travolta was in that production.
In your production, the one you were in?
Correct. He was 18 years old, and he played Duty.
Wow.
And I played Kinnicky. That's when we met. And I did that for 10 months on the road, 10 months on Broadway. I loved acting, but I loved directing more, so...
And how does an actor make the switch, right? You're working every day as an actor, you're watching what the director's doing. Then I've always made assumptions about that. How does Angelina Jolie go from acting to directing?
How do you go from acting to directing? One day you get fed up with not being in control. If you've got an inclination to being a control freak. Right. Or you've been talked to by too many people who don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
And you think, and then you try it. If you I was lucky. I was involved with a little off-Broadway theater troupe, Ensemble Studio Theater, where I acted, and somebody suggested I direct a play, which I did there, and I loved it. I loved being able to orchestrate the life between the actors, and I found out that I was pretty good at it, and I loved not having to be on stage or go to the theater every night. So that's how the transition began.
Huh.
Yeah. And the great thing, forgive me, the great thing about being a director as opposed to being an actor is it doesn't matter what you look like. As an actor, you know, the casting. And
you got to keep it up.
You got to keep it up, and if they need a 6'3" guy and you're 5'7" and you say, I can play 6'3", someone's going to say, no, you can't.
So that's interesting. There's an example of an obstacle you may not be able to overcome.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You're not 6'3". No, and nor am I a leading man. In my heart I am. Right. But you know, New York, Hollywood, thousands of actors, directors, producers can pick exactly what they want and what that person should look like. So you only have so much control. You're doing it, which is sort of an ultimate control, but you're not putting the pieces together. Would our Spartan philosophy say that you just need to go find the roles that you fit in?
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. Don't fool yourself. And you locate those opportunities, and then you make it life and death. It's either life and death for you. You know, you got to be crazy to go into the theater. No one is going to encourage you to do it. Your parents, unless you're really lucky, are certainly not. Mine were Holocaust survivors, so they thought I'd lost my mind. They thought I'd thrown away a good college education, but I fell in love. Joe, you know,
well, the second half of this podcast, we're going to talk about the Holocaust survivors, because I'm really interested in that.
Sure.
But I guess you're right. I wonder what the statistics look like. I wonder
how many people attempt to be actors or actresses and how many actually become it, right? So I guess the odds are really against you that you're going to end up anywhere in this industry.
They're really against you. When I audition actors for parts in shows I do, I'll see 200-300 actors for a part.
And that part might be a few minutes.
Yeah.
A tiny part.
That's right.
200-300.
That's right. And, only one of them is going to get the job.
Who gets the job? Is it the guy or the girl that works harder? Who gets the job?
The one that makes me fall in love with them.
Right.
Not, I'm talking about I fall in love with
personality.
The personality, the talent. Right. I believe them.
Right.
I believe them. I'm moved by them. Right. I care about them. And if that happens for me, then it's going to happen for an audience.
For the audience. Yeah. Describe that a bit. If you were giving advice to somebody because that actor or actress that you choose out of the 300, that's the same thing that's occurring at a job interview.
Yep.
Or in front of a big customer if you're running a company.
Yep.
What is the attribute that person has sitting across from you that gets you excited?
The person, it's talent translated into behavior that is going to make me not forget that person. Everyone's coming in the door and singing a song or reading from a script, and I'm sitting and listening. When I would audition as an actor, I would create little plays. I remember I would work on my performances so that once I can remember auditioning for Neil Simon, and I sang, "Smile though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking." And in the course of the song, I turned him into a Nazi. "Smile though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. Then there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by if you smile through your fear," and so on and so. They were rolling. Neil Simon, and then at the end of the song, I come back to that simple little guy at the beginning.
Love it.
And it was appropriate for the part because I knew what the play was.
Right.
And when I left, I knew that I had made Neil Simon and Manny Eisenberg and the director, Bobby Moore, laugh hard.
Right.
It was a comedy. So, you have to take a chance and do something that will make them to remember you. I once had an audition for a theater company, summer theater companies, and they said, do one Shakespearean piece and then do anything else you want. So I did a speech from Twelfth Night, and then I dropped to my knees and I sang Mammy.
Nice.
Now, they're going to remember me.
Right.
But the reason, it's a good idea.
You took the extra step.
I took a chance because my life depended on it.
Right. You wanted it as bad.
I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
That's how much.
You wanted it as bad as you want to breathe.
I wanted it as much as Bill Belichick wanted to win the Super Bowl, or Bill Parcells wanted to put together a team.
How do we teach that? How do you teach that to people? Because I feel like it's so simple. That's what the whole podcast is about. It's so simple.
It's like, why do you do what you do? I mean, I've read just some of the physical things that you've done.
They're all stuntmen.
Yeah. How do you teach that? You either have the desire to go for it, and even the desire is no guarantee that you're going to succeed. I mean, but it starts with how important it is to you. I remember going up to Dartmouth College, where I graduated from, to interview young people, right? 20, 30 young people. And they had question-answer session. And one of them asked the right questions. One of them really made it clear that it was important to him and that he wanted it badly. I could smell it. You can tell.
Sure.
That's a kid who just directed the Carole King musical, Beautiful. I brought him to New York as my assistant right after he graduated. He spent 2-3 years with me. He's got talent, but he needed to do it. He needed to do this endeavor more than other people.
Yeah, right.
Right. And I don't know how you teach it. I don't.
That's the $64 million question. How do we put a spark inside of somebody? I mean, the Spartan race exists for that reason, right? Maybe if we put them under barbed wire and we throw them over walls, and not unlike military training.
Someone to tell somebody you're not working hard enough.
Right.
You think you're working hard enough, but you're not working hard enough. You need that drill instructor. I mean,
okay, let's take one more step. So you do that, like I've done my whole life. You piss off a lot of people.
Well,
you piss off a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to win the Super Bowl, and I don't even know if these guys want to play football.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So you run the risk. So you don't give a you don't care.
You can curse. I think you can curse. Are we allowed to curse?
You don't. So you ultimately have to make being liked not as important as
winning.
as winning, as accomplishing the objective.
Right.
And you need someone with the guts to tell you that you're not you think you're doing enough. You're not doing enough. You could be working harder.
Right.
And you can't worry about pissing people off. It's been tough in my life because I want to be liked. I mean, I like people who like me, but sometimes, I'm working on a bunch of new shows now, and you just have to. What you have to do is protect the possibility of a happy ending as long as possible.
Right.
My happy ending is success of a production.
Right.
So rather than get pissed off at somebody who is in my way, first of all, I'll never embarrass anybody, so I won't do it in public.
Right.
But I'll take them aside and I'll say, you're not. It's not good enough, or I'll be more specific as to what it can be, but I'll try to motivate in private, because I find embarrassing someone totally pointless. Which is to say, correcting them in a way, you know what I mean.
Sure.
That humiliating somebody, at least in my business, it hasn't netted really good results.
No.
Getting people to pretend it was their own idea is fantastic.
That's a good
strategy.
one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Coming in with a battle plan.
Yeah.
And saying, I don't know, why don't you try this? Having thought about it the night,
Sure.
so you gotta just be more prepared, more dedicated, and
take
willing,
the extra step.
And you got to be willing. I don't know how you teach somebody willingness to take a chance. I don't know how you do that. I mean, those auditions I cited to you.
Well, I think the second half of this podcast, I'm going to suggest what I think will help people learn how to take a chance. Why don't we take a break? I'll learn how to sing. You learn how to do burpees. Want to do that?
Sure, burpees?
Yeah.
What?
Singing?
No.
If I'm going to do singing, you could do burpees.
All right, good.
I hope you're not sitting still while you listen. If you are, you better get a burpee break in.
We are back, and we're going to talk about blood on the lip. So we're trying to teach people how to have that drive and determination. You mentioned your parents were Holocaust survivors.
Yeah.
Clearly, surviving that, nothing's getting in their way.
That's correct.
Nothing, right?
That's correct. They had a ferocious will to live, and they were lucky, right? They were lucky they weren't killed.
Yep.
And a ferocious will to live. My mother spent a year in Auschwitz and managed to survive, barely. My father jumped a train with 6 other guys.
Were they husband and wife?
They were.
They were
ripped apart after they were married. And my father escaped and ran from the Nazis for 3 years, different jobs, different identities, always staying one step ahead.
While his wife
was in Auschwitz.
And he didn't know she was there.
He knew she was there. There was no way for them to communicate with each other.
Right.
But there was a network of communication that, she had heard that he was alive.
Right.
But that, forget about him, he's off running around.
Right.
I mean, it's all. And then the basic thing of just staying alive. The point is, I was born in Stuttgart. They were reunited. She survived. He found her.
Yep.
I was born in Stuttgart. And basically, I grew up in...
Were you born 9 months to the day after they met? It's an interesting question.
It is an interesting question. But my mom just passed away at 96. My dad's been, passed away quite a bit. So I don't know, but I'll ask.
You got to find out. That's important.
Well, it's great. I wouldn't bet 9 months, because when he found her, she was 85 pounds and on death's door.
Right.
So I think it would probably
she had to beef up a bit.
She had to come on.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah.
So are you the younger or the older?
I'm the older.
You're the older. So you were first.
Firstborn.
Do you have more veracity than your brother?
I have more terror than my brother.
Is he laid back?
Absolutely.
You know why, right? They just came out of that. They were right.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was born in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And they had survived. No, I was the first.
You were the bulldog.
And I was the miracle child.
Right.
So the price you pay for that is they scared me to death that there was a Nazi around every corner.
Right.
So I grew up as a fat, overprotected, unathletic kid who was really smart and really popular, and always scared that somebody was going to beat me up or that there was a Nazi around every corner. This is a work in progress.
Right.
I think having to
Yet you were born in Germany.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, you know.
Right.
So, you know, and that's the way I was until I went away to college. And then all of a sudden, I found a life, and I fell in love with the theater. And then I went to grad school, and I said, okay. Now, and I had my first, you talking about motivation?
Yeah.
I had to take a dance class in tights with women. And I was 175 pounds.
Wow.
Right? That was September.
In Dartmouth?
No, this is at Smith now. I'm in grad school, right?
Okay.
And I'm dancing. And between September 7th,
What year?
This was 1969.
I was born in 69. You're in tights.
I'm in tights.
I'm in diapers.
Embarrassed. And I'm embarrassed. And yeah, you know, and between the beginning of that term and Thanksgiving, I lost 40 pounds, was able to do 3 sets of 95 push-ups.
Nice.
I spent hours in this dance studio by myself, and everyone felt sorry for me, my family.
Because they thought you were just...
I was throwing my life away.
Right.
And I was the happiest guy in the world.
Right.
You know, that's where I started to dance.
Because they wanted to see you doing what? Doctor,
They
lawyer?
wanted me to have a profession.
Right.
A profession. You know what I mean, Joe?
Yeah.
You'd be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer.
Right.
A profession. Have a profession. You're going to Dartmouth. It's the most expensive. Anyway, so that was...
How'd you cover Dartmouth?
You know, my father, he helped out a little bit. I got loans. I got a scholarship after I got there.
Nice.
I worked at the hospital because I was pre-med. Yeah. So I worked drawing blood from people. I worked in the kitchen.
Oh, so you went in pre-med. You wool over their eyes, the parents' eyes, and then...
And my own, you know.
Your own, right.
And then I saw a show.
Right. While at Dartmouth?
At Dartmouth. With a blind date, Winter Carnival.
And you fell in love with it?
Not with her.
No.
No, with the show.
Yeah.
And everything. I was like, and I couldn't quite believe what had happened. But then I started acting. And I loved that. And then pretty soon it helped. I had an identity. People would know me as the guy who emceed all the big shows at the, the Hop, or was acted in this. And
right.
It was great. And then the moment came when, what am I going to do after, right? All right, I'll apply to law school because that's a profession.
Right.
And I applied to 3 law schools, got into all of them, and then at the last second went to Smith, a graduate school in the theater, and where I lost 40 pounds, started to dance. Anyway, am I rambling on a little too much?
No,
anyway,
not at all. Not at all.
I don't know how you teach dedication.
Commitment, right? Dedication, motivation, and perseverance.
Yep.
How many doors did you knock on before you finally?
A lot. A lot, you know.
And Thomas Edison, 1,000 light bulbs before you go into work, right?
Right. And remember that nobody owes you anything. It's a lot of people who come.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
No one owes you anything. I gotta make a T-shirt that says that.
Nobody owes you anything,
Right.
And if you can just, if you could just remember that,
right.
Then you never take anything for granted. You never stop
Yeah.
working, So, I wish there was a way to wave that magic wand and impart that desire, but people think. Unfortunately, there are too many young, attractive people who make it in television for no particular reason. Now with reality television, you don't even need any talent particularly,
right.
And some people get fooled by that. And then you get this guy who just wrote Hamilton, this Lin-Manuel Miranda. He wrote the book, he wrote the music, and he's starring in it.
Right.
And it took him years, So he's talented. He's got committed. It's just. Commitment. I'm rambling.
Commitment. Yeah, no, I like it.
So anyway, that's, I'm just thinking back to the Holocaust and how it's always been.
No, the Holocaust is on my mind. So how do we, an old timer once said to me, one of the things you'd have to do to really get this country back to being, ferocious, as you mentioned, is you need a good old-fashioned depression or something where people go, not that you'd want that, but where people have a frame of reference like your parents had that said, nobody owes me anything. No. I'm just happy to be alive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't appreciate how great it is to be alive, you know? I mean, but they just assume it's going to be this way forever. I don't know. I was lucky to fall in love with something.
Yeah.
That I just...
And it drove you.
Yeah, and I love it as much today as I did, 30 years ago, and I'm working just as hard on it, Yeah. I mean, it's...
What's your favorite exercise?
You mean physical exercise now?
Yeah.
I walk.
You like walking?
Well, I walk from 104th down here to 44th today. I walk to work.
Oh, nice.
And then I walk back if I can.
Nice.
I used to do more, but I just like feeling good.
Yeah.
I had a big sugar problem a couple of years ago. Scared the shit on. 5.9, the A1C.
Yeah.
It was, and all of a sudden things get better.
Why'd you have the sugar problem? What were you eating or drinking?
I was eating pure crap. Without any mindfulness whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, in tech rehearsals, and you're nervous, and they're lighting, and you're waiting. There's M&Ms. There's.
Yeah. Why do they do that? It's not just it's at Google. It's everywhere I've been. It's everywhere. The garbage. I think we need to mandate. I don't know how you feel about this, but I think it was not allowed to. You can't eat it. You got to go to another planet for that stuff.
You wouldn't get an argument from me because I know the difference.
So why'd they fight Bloomberg on it? Bloomberg, in case you don't know, listening, was the mayor of New York, and he said, let's get rid of some of this crappy food and these sodas, and everybody was up in arms.
Because they see it as as somehow a violation of the free right to screw yourself up royally. And any regulation, I like regulations. I like rules.
Yeah.
I like structure.
I mean, they could go too far.
Yes,
certainly,
they could.
Right? They can go too far.
Absolutely.
But telling us not to eat a bunch of junk food or smoke cigarettes or do drugs is probably not a bad thing.
It's not, because most of the people in this
can't
country
make the right decisions.
Don't get that sugar is really poison.
It's poison.
And I mean, the smarter people.
I heard we eat on
that.
average, I think 200 pounds of sugar a year. 200 pounds.
Let me tell you, one of the movies I saw on this, I think it was Jamie Oliver, the English, he was doing a lecture demonstration, had a wheelbarrow full of sugar, and he dumped it out on stage. Whether it was 200 pounds or 150 pounds, he dumped the whole thing. He says, that's how much you consume each year. Now let me tell you what it does to you. Right. So I'm a believer. I know that I love getting from point A to point B a lot more today than I did 2 years ago.
Right.
So I don't know. It's all about, putting, I mean.
Why don't we go eat some celery and go for a run or a walk? You're awesome.
It's good to talk to you.
That was awesome.
And good for you. And I hope, I hope you find the answer.
We're trying to get to the answer.
Yeah. Anyway.
We'll get it. Or we'll just move everybody that's not following what we're talking about to another planet. What'd you think?
I love Broadway. What do you guys think?
Do you like it?
Yeah. Spartan Up the Musical, soon to hit the mean streets of Broadway.
Kind of in shock there. Incredible story. This guy, what he was able to tell us about where he came from, what he did, and totally different story than some of the other ones. We've heard about people coming from nothing in a very unremarkable upbringing, and this guy came out of some pretty incredible circumstances.
I mean, his parents, right, escaped the Holocaust, jumped on a train. I don't know if I would have expected that, a child of parents with that background, to end up on Broadway, but maybe because it was dark and gray and they were so, probably always looking around the corner and nervous and protective. And I don't know. What do you think? I see you smirking.
Well, I'm just because again,
you're visualizing me in tights.
Yeah, I'm visualizing again your vision of probably Eastern Europe or something. I mean, obviously during World War II and the Holocaust. I mean, that is, you can't get much darker. I got it, but I don't think that people internally are dark because they're living through dark times. I mean, that's a perfect example. These people had a spirit, obviously, that superseded the environment they were living in, and they were able to transport that. Is that the right word? Transfer, transmute, transfer to their child.
Yeah, and he used the term ferocious will to live, or ferocity.
Yeah, ferocity.
Yeah.
Good one. We'll add it.
I like the term ferocity, right? Because that's something we're constantly talking about here. If we're not using that specific term, with Spartan Up is no matter who's successful has that ferocity. Is it ferocity?
Anyways, neologisms, perfect.
That flame.
Yep.
Right. You can't even douse the flame. It's so strong.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny when you talk about dousing the flame, because he talks about lighting a spark in people. Yep. Right. And so here's a guy who he's come out of circumstances where he's lit his own spark, but he's saying, where he's been successful is he's been able to go and light a spark in people. And we've listened to other people in these podcasts who they talk about what inspires them to do the work they do. He's to be able to light a spark in someone else. So it really is like the Olympic torch. It's a paying it forward, lighting it on, and pretty cool. That's what we're doing. People. Yeah, absolutely, exactly. Right? Spartan, absolutely. Yeah.
But we're more like what would a giant firestorm be called?
You're a flamethrower.
we're more like flamethrowers.
We're
more like a volcano.
Yeah.
But there are there are firestorms though.
Volcano.
There you go.
When the wildlife, when the forests are on fire and you have that whole wall of fire coming out, I think it is called a firestorm.
Yeah,
and that's actually really good because there's a lot of trees and plants like pine cones that need fire to open them up to germinate the new seed. It's actually and a lot of those ecologies need to burn. Since we build these McMansions closer and closer to the wilderness, we can't burn, and that's actually destroying.
Yeah, but you're not revolutionary. You're not burn it to the ground, man, or any of that, are you?
Woman, no. No. It's really good because it clears out the understory. Right. It opens the pine cones, drops the seed. There's a really beautiful word for it.
Any chance she gets in horticulture, she's jumping on it. We went from Broadway to pine cones.
Bless it. And ferocity.
Actually, we went from Broadway to Spartan to pine cones. There was a segue in there.
No, but off camera, we talked about that fire in your belly, and we were discussing whether you think it's innately there. If everyone has it, it just needs a...
The viewers don't think we talk off camera. They think this is the only time we talk. You can't bring that up.
Yeah, exactly. It never
There is no off camera.
So I'd like to invite you, gentlemen. I think we talk... a question. Fire in the belly. What do you got? I know we were talking about...
Oh, I know. You're saying we're talking about does everyone have a fire in their belly?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting concept because I kind of think that they do. Just finding that passion.
I would think not, but after, again, off camera, hearing Johnny's description, I guess it's there. It's whether it's
dormant.
It's dormant.
Oh.
I mean, I think that's
like
the best way. And again, I think it goes back to everything we've talked about, nurture versus nature, and what people are exposed to. And so it's in there. It's finding it or being exposed to it or having the right mentor expose it, and then ignite it. So
the bellows.
And it takes for some people it takes longer.
Yeah.
Sign up for a Spartan race. You do 3 or 4 Bikram yoga classes. You'll start that spark.
Go see a Broadway play.
Right there. What about Broadway? Got to take it back to Broadway. And go see...
Spartan Up the Broadway at SpartanUpPodcast.com.
Right.
Wow, very nice. Jazz hands in there and everything.
Hey, let's cut there. Can't beat Zephyr on that one.
Find show notes, audio, and video for this episode at SpartanUpPodcast.com/067.
Or follow us on Twitter at SpartanUpPod. The Spartan Up Podcast is brought to you by Spartan.
To find a race near you, visit Spartan.com.